recent years. Let me take a question of that. Sir, gentleman with the red tie. I'll take you both. I'll take this gentleman first and then that gentleman behind.
Good morning. Gary Lovett. I'm the regional chair for Lancashire and Cumbria, shortly to be retitled Floodbria. I'm talking about the Northern Powerhouse here. We want to ensure that it happens and it works. And what could you do to ensure that the typical bickering that's going to happen between the different towns, towns and communities, i.e. Manchester, Leeds, etc., and the smaller places in Lancashire and Cumbria, to make sure it actually happens and ensure that we actually get this Northern Powerhouse to work and nobody is actually left out in the dry?
Yeah. Now, by the way, we are providing support to rebuild those flood defences and the roads that have been affected, and giving money to small businesses to help them. And we're looking at what more we can do on the flooding situation. But on the issue of the Northern Powerhouse, I am trying to address a decades-old problem in our country, which is that the South grew faster than the North. And of course, it hasn't always been like that in our country's history. If we were doing this conference 100 years ago, it was the North that was the great economic powerhouse of the economy. So it is something I think we can address. And there is a good economic theory we're working off. So it's not just a slogan. The economic theory is that instead of just sort of trying to move some public sector jobs around the place, which has basically been the approach of some previous governments, what we're trying to do is bring together these cities and counties of the North, which individually are strong, but you put them together and they'd be much stronger still. And a good example of that, if you take Manchester and Leeds, they are the central line in London is longer than the distance between Manchester and Leeds, and yet, of course, far fewer people each day travel between the two cities than travel on the central line because the transport links aren't strong enough. Equally, these individual cities have not had strong enough civic leadership, by which I mean it's not disparaging the people who've gone into local government there, it's just that we haven't had powerful elected mayors of the kind you've got in London and indeed other cities around the world. So we've taken some good economic theory to try and drive a private sector growth in the Northern Powerhouse. And I think the real challenge is to try and get, to address your point directly, these cities and counties and towns to think more like a single community rather than to be into silos of the Northwest or Cheshire or West Yorkshire or whatever. And one of the absolute key drivers of this approach is going to be transport. And a bit like in the Woody Allen film, if you've ever seen it, I have with me the head of Transport for the North, John Cridland, and he has just been appointed to chair that body. We've created this organisation, Transport for the North, and its job, a bit like Transport for London here in the capital, is going to be to look at all the different demands for road schemes and rail schemes and whatnot, and say what makes sense as a coherent whole. And at the same time, I've got Andrew Adonis, the head of our Infrastructure Commission, looking specifically at improving the east-west links across the north of England. And I hope to be able to bring all this together in the coming months with the first big set of announcements in the budget. So that's trying to get everyone to think together like that in the north. Let me take two final questions. I'll take the gentleman I was going to also take and this lady here.